when you have a video game console, a dedicated piece of hardware, when Microsoft is stepping away from hardware and really trying to not just double down, like they're going all in on software support and digital this and that, and unifying Windows across all their platforms. I mean, like, I think that's very smart.
Right.
And over the last 6-9 months, like, I think the fate of the Xbox platform has been up in the air. And it took Microsoft and Phil Spencer to kind of step forward and really explain the future of Xbox as a platform. The fear of, like, well, is Xbox just going to be like an Apple TV that you buy in the future and you hide it under your new 4K screen and, like, that's it? Is there even going to be, like, a big glorious box that you that you play these games on? Is it just going to talk to your computer? Is it just going to stream games from the cloud? Like, what's happening? Because we're seeing first-party console titles migrate over to Windows 10 PCs.
Mm-hmm.
And that does, I don't know if it makes people nervous, but when your console lives and dies on the software support it gets, especially from its first party. When Microsoft is kind of killing off their studios, Lionhead just bit the dust not too long ago. Project Spark got canceled. There's no word on if this Project Spark team is, going to be dissolved as well. I hope not. But, they're really kind of picking and choosing the types of franchises they support. And it's the really popular ones. It's Halo, it's Gears of War, it's Forza. And they would rather, seemingly, and I could be completely wrong on this, they would rather lean on really creative, talented, independent game developers and grab those titles and bring them over. Like Below, like Cuphead, like Ori and the Blind Forest, things like that. They'd rather showcase that than roll the dice on Fable 4. Because they don't know how that's going to be received.
And I think that's what's going to make Microsoft's presentation this year at E3 so interesting, or I'll say potentially interesting, because they might not address any of this at all. But there's been a lot of questions as to what their next step is. This was before PlayStation even announced, the Neo, the PS 4.5 or PS 4K, whatever you want to call it. This, we were wondering about them before PlayStation announced their thing, before all this stuff started coming out about Nintendo NX.
Yeah.
So now the game is changing yet again while Microsoft was trying to evolve. I think that could be a really interesting presentation just to hear, like, I don't even need to hear specifics about, systems or anything like that. I just want to know, where is Microsoft going from here?
I think you're right. I think Microsoft, their direction is probably the most shrouded in mystery, even more than NX.
Yeah. Because
we already kind of have a certain level of expectation with Nintendo. They're going to do something different. They're going to try to flip the table on the whole thing. They're going to be Nintendo. We don't really know what Xbox is anymore.
Yeah, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Phil say that he was against an iterative, a kind of middle? My brain just shut off on me.
No.
But an Xbox 1.5.
Yes, that's exactly what he said. He has no interest in an Xbox 1.5. He feels like if they're going to launch a platform with boosted specs, that they're going to go all the way with it. They're going to make it an upgrade worth, pursuing. Which I think, that's a kind of a shot across the bow of Sony.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not at all poo-hooing the PS4 Neo specs that Giant Bomb posted.
Right.
And that other media outlets and journalists have been kind of hearing about lately. We're talking about, it's a pretty significant boost, I think. I mean, you're talking the doubling of GPU power. Maybe not a big CPU upgrade, but I mean that's okay because they still want it to be a PS4. They still need it to be like in the ballpark of, not the same specs, but I can understand like in terms of coding and developing games that, if you had a super powerful CPU in a PS4 Neo, it could maybe cause some problems when you're trying to optimize for PS4. Maybe, and I could be completely wrong about that. But the GPU boost alone is significant, and I think when Sony starts showing off Neo titles, especially games, maybe not this year, but next year, that were kind of developed day one with Neo in mind. From what I understand,
they better start showing them this year if they're planning on supposedly launching in October.
Well, like I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's the PC, optimization approach, where you're going to have two settings on PS4. You're going to have Neo, and you're going to have, PS4 original. But always when you develop from the beginning with a certain spec level in mind, you seem to get the best performance out of that.
Yeah.
Well, which is kind of what I mean. Like, just because you can make Uncharted 4 look a little better, and maybe it'll look a lot better on Neo if they decide to upgrade it, or patch it for that new platform. I mean, there's a big difference between that, as good as that could look, and a game that is day one programmed with Neo specs in mind. So I'm very interested in what Sony shows off with that, and because I think they have a lot to prove when you make an announcement that to a lot of people seems like the fracturing of the user base. That's not what it is, but I understand how it can look like that.
Right, and I know a lot of people have wondered why PlayStation is doing this, and I really see it for two reasons. Like, one, with Nintendo launching a new console, PlayStation, like we've said, PlayStation wants to be able to say, this is still the best place to play. Wait, I'm sorry. Maybe that's Xbox's catchphrase. I can't remember. Anyway, but PlayStation, they always want to be able to say, we have the best graphics. We have the best console, most powerful.
Yeah. And
if Nintendo drops the NX, now all of a sudden they can't say that anymore. So one, they want to be able to still say that. And two, I think it might be less about the regular games and more about PSVR, because that VR headset to really look good, it needs a better CPU, GPU. It needs a better system to run, and it will run on PS4, right? It's going to have the system add-on for PS4.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. It's PSVR is going to run perfectly on PS4, but
it'll look better. Work better on
yes.
video.
Well, yeah, that's the implication. When you have double the GPU power, when you start, kind of rivaling some PC specs, or more specifically, when you start matching like requirements for Oculus Rift,
right,
or the HTC Vive, and you want to jump into the VR space, and that was a concern by a lot of people. Like I tried PSVR at E3 last year. I tried PSVR and Oculus Rift. First time I tried VR, and like the first demo I played was The Kitchen from Capcom.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's a reaction video of a bunch of people who are like screaming and reacting to The Kitchen like it's this horrifying thing. And I did not make that video. And the reason is I was not screaming. I was laughing the whole time because what happened, and also my demo was just a titch glitchy. I'm sure I'm not saying the game's glitchy or anything like that, but you're at E3, things are not finished. It happens.
Right.
So there was a weird kind of detachment between my in-game hands and my real hands, which are holding onto the DualShock 4 controller. And part of the demo, you're supposed to, there's a video camera on a tripod in front of you as you're like strapped in a chair in this kitchen. It looks like you're trapped in like freaking Saw or something. or just 7. Something a little more lighthearted, like 7.
Oh.
And you're supposed to like knock over the camcorder with your hands that are like supposed to be tied together, and that wouldn't work, right? So it kind of glitched, and the developers or whoever was running the demo station, they came over and we had to play around with some stuff. But my experience with the kitchen, my first VR experience was kind of mind-blowing, because my first thought when I put on then called Morpheus, now VR, PSVR, was oh, I can tell this is lower resolution. I can tell having a screen press that close against your eyes, and okay, like it was noticeable. And 20 seconds later, I forgot all of that. The pixel counting, the number crunching, the resolution scoffing, for me, that disappeared 20 seconds later. The moment like the 3D audio kicked in, and you're like, wait, what was that? and you look over, and there's someone like talking to you on the floor. And yeah, of course you were kind of aware of, this is a video game character, he doesn't look real. You were kind of aware of that, but the sense of presence kicks in pretty strongly fairly quickly. And those questions kind of stop, even though you're observing it, you're making that observation. Those questions stopped running in your head. And I kept experiencing that throughout my entire tour through VR.
Yeah. Because
I played that's a strong word. I was a member of the audience for the what's her name? Hatsune Miku.
Oh yeah.
For her concert live at E3.
I'm still so mad I missed her in concert when she was out here in LA a week ago.
That would be quite the experience.
That would have been so neat.
It's funny because I've watched some of the Splatoon videos in that style. Like they have concerts in Japan using that same style.
Yeah.
I've seen some of that like on YouTube and stuff, and it's really interesting. That experience being live in concert for an anime character brought to life in 3D in VR, like it is nuts, because that demo was a 2-part experience. I was sitting down in a chair, and the developer or whoever running the kiosk gave me a Move controller that doubles as a glow stick in the game. And
oh god, I wish I had recorded.
And so you can wave it around, and then there are all these like shadows. That's the creepiest thing in VR. They had like these nondescript audience members that you're in the middle of, and they all look like black shadows in 3D. It's bizarre.
That's kind of terrifying.
And then they start like waving glow sticks, and you're like, okay, you don't want to like upset the darkness. And then so like half the demo is you're in the audience, and you can move around. It all has like 3D depth tracking with the PlayStation camera. So you can move around, and that's weird when you can like kind of lean over and check out people down the row that you're standing in or sitting in. That's trippy. And then the second half of the demo, they bring you on stage, and then she like dances in front of you and dances around you, and you can like, you're looking at the entire arena of people, of just terrifying black shadows staring at you, waving glow sticks. But it is nuts, because it really feels like once the presence kicks in, it feels like this anime character is standing in front of you, like for real. And like that's impossible. Of course it is. But the way the tech works, it's so good right now, even at a level like last year with PSVR, running on PS4, not Neo, but PS4 specs. Like, it's really impressive. Screw resolution, screw textures, and any of that stuff. When it works beautifully. And then I got to play some of the more traditional games, Battlezone in VR, which I freaking loved. And then Riggs, believe the hype. Riggs is fantastic. It is the only VR game that I did get like a sense of vertigo, though, because you run around in a mech, and it's kind of like a big esport arena.
Oh yeah, you said when you went up the shaft or went up the elevator.